Welcome to A Moment of Xen. Time to sit back and relax as model, actress, mentor, and supermom Xen Sams takes you on a sexy and wild ride, covering the latest in film, fashion, pop culture, politics, and entertainment from the millennial mom's perspective. Here's your host, Xen Sams.
Welcome to the show, beautiful people. Remember to join me right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, every Saturday night from 7 to 8 p.m. or go to 710wor.iheart.com/A Moment of Xen to watch fully uploaded episodes as of Monday morning. Please make sure to follow me on social media at Xen Sams, that's Xen with an X, or you can text the word collaboration or feature me to 917-575-2321. Again, that number is 917-575-2321. Today's show is brought to you by our very own Romulus Entertainment, the best Italian food in the city, none other than Bice Cucina in Midtown. And in NYC, of course, we have an amazing array of designers, but my favorite is Helen Yarmack International. Also welcoming to the Moment of Xen sponsor family, we have NYC's very own and trusted band of investment bankers and brokers, none other than Revere Securities. My really good friend and pal, president of Revere Wealth Management, Kyle Wohl, is going to be stopping by, and he's going to help us make sense of Joe Biden's disaster economic recovery plan. He's always so fun to talk to and so smart. I always learn something from Kyle when he comes on. We also have Fox Nation's very own Queen Bee, Nancy Grace, joining us. She'll be breaking down the Ghislaine Maxwell case in a segment I am debuting called Scandals, and you can expect exactly what you hear. A scandal of a segment, especially when Nancy comes on. NYC mayoral candidate Peter Guimaras, running as an independent, will be dropping in for a quick interview. I'll be asking him some important questions about what he plans on doing to bring our beloved city back if elected. But up next, we have Sean Craisman, Newsmax's very own anchor, Monday to Friday. Sean Craisman is on National Report. He goes live over 80 million viewers, and Newsmax is one of the fastest growing news platforms out there, not controlled by the liberal media, might I add. He's going to stop in and chat life, love, and I'm going to spring a quiz on him about how well he knows women. Hopefully he doesn't cut the interview there, so I'll leave it for last. Stay tuned. You definitely don't want to miss this. We'll be right back after this with Sean Craisman. You're listening to A Moment of Xen. I'm your host, Xen Sams, right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York.
One of the world's most recognized fashion designers is Helen Yarmack. She turned a small clothing line to an international fashion brand and is one of the few independent luxury fashion houses in the industry. Her designs for men and women are timeless and they outlast changing trends, yet they stay adaptable to your individual style. Helen's goal for her clients is to express their individual uniqueness and beauty. To learn more about her offerings, visit HelenYarmack.com or to schedule an appointment, call 212-245-0777.
Welcome back, beautiful people. You're listening to A Moment of Xen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. I'm your host, Xen Sams. Now, coming up, we have my dear friend, Sean Craisman. Now, he's no stranger to the camera, guys. He is a two-time Emmy-nominated TV news anchor. He joined Newsmax, which is the fastest growing national cable news network in the country, mind you, back in January 2020, right before the pandemic hit. What a way to kick it off in New York. Shaun is currently the anchor for National Report with his beautiful co-host, Emma Reckenberg, and they air live every weekday morning, reaching more than 80 million homes. So we've got a celebrity on our hands, guys. But I want to address his Emmy nomination here. So prior to being hired by Newsmax, he was a weekday evening anchor in New Orleans, and during that time, he received not one, but 2 regional Emmy nominations for Best Newscast. What a way to kick off your career. Welcome to the show, Sean.
Hey, it's good to be here. Thanks so much for having me, Xen. I mean, you gave me a call about this. I thought this is going to be exciting. You and me getting to talk here on your show. I appreciate it. And thanks for that intro, by the way.
You're welcome, my friend. You're welcome. The last time I saw you, we were having drinks in a very shut down city, and we somehow always managed to make it to happy hour in the freezing cold at times. So it's nice to see
Yeah,
you again.
it's good to see you too. Yeah, those were the days. I tell you what, the city's starting to open back up finally. But yeah, you and I met when they only let us dine outdoors in the freezing cold. But the things you'll do for a cocktail after work.
Absolutely, and those cocktails were very important. We formed a great friendship from that. Now,
Yep.
tell the audience, you're originally from South Carolina, if I remember correctly, right?
Yeah, I'm from Charleston, South Carolina. I grew up in Charleston, way down south on the beach. A kid on a boat. Love being in board. Love being on the water. So up here in Northeast, look, I'm so excited to be in New York. I love New York. I dreamt of New York since I was a little boy. Always wanted to be in the big city. But I every now and then I still get to go home and visit my mom's down there and the rest of my family and all that. So I still make it down there. But I love New York.
So this Newsmax gig, is it the dream job you've always dreamed of before?
I've worked in, I think, 4 local markets for 2 NBC affiliates, for 2 CBS affiliates. And I've worked all over, and I've done all kinds of different gigs. And this one, I've got to say, I'm so excited about. I mean, if you would have told me I signed up for this role January of 2020, and that was a couple of months before the pandemic broke out, and which kind of unified every news organization because we were all reporting on the exact same thing. And if you would have told me back then that, hey, if you just wait around for a little more than a year, you're going to become the 4th largest cable news network in the country, I wouldn't have believed it. It is unreal to see the support and the outpouring of viewership just for Newsmax. A lot of it has to do with the amazing choices that CEO Chris Riley, Elliot Jacobson, the folks are making behind the scenes. They're handpicking some great folks to be on air, but not only that, it's the content that they're providing. I mean, you're seeing lawmakers come on our network so many times, that conservative lawmakers, that they're trying to get their voices out there, and I think that's what resonated with Newsmax. I mean, look, turn on the television right now, it's like a buffet of news. You can kind of take your pick and choose, which one do you feel like, which one resonates with you the most. And it got to the point where there are folks, conservative voices, and even some independents that just did not feel represented when they watch the news. Newsmax found those viewers and ran and off. And that's the point. Look, and even going back to journalism school, I mean, the basics that most people know, there are 2 sides to every story, sometimes more. And a lot of these news organizations only tell one side. And that's where Newsmax came in. I think that's where they've seen the success. And so for me to be able to be a voice for those who may feel they don't have one, that's what gets me excited about getting up in the morning, because I can help those people every day. And it just so happens to be on a national platform. So it really is a dream come true.
Yeah, that helps that it's on a national platform, and it's a right wing conservative platform, which I watch you all the time. I'm a huge fan, but you know what it's like these days. With cancel culture, people tiptoe around being a Republican or a conservative. Do you find that it's affected your dating life?
You know what? It actually has. Funny story. So when I moved to New York, I had a girlfriend at the time. I'm gonna get intimate with you because you're my friend.
Okay.
I know there may be a couple people listening, but when I moved to New York, I had a girlfriend at the time. We broke up. I told you I moved to New York in January. Her and I broke up on Valentine's Day in February. Obviously, very heartbroken. But I waited, a few months, and obviously the pandemic happened. So I got on the dating apps, right, which is what most people do these days, and there was nowhere to go in New York City. Everything was closed. So I would have to meet my dates, all these girls, at different parks. So I would meet them at Central Park and go and walk around with them. And I am not kidding you. One of the first things that got asked to me, I want to say pretty regularly, more than 50%, was, are you a Trump supporter? Tell me you're not a Republican. Tell me you're not a conservative. That was always one of the initial questions. Look, I grew up in the South, as we talked about. I was just told, don't talk about two things, religion and politics, when you first meet someone. And that's the polite way to go about it, because you don't want anyone to feel uncomfortable. But it was interesting to get to this city and realize just how important politics are. I digress. Hate for the right and hate for the Trump is so prevalent here in your dating life in the city, and it made it very difficult to where I would really disagree. I would just say, you know what, I try to remain unbiased. You know what, I try to remain in the middle, because all I want to do is simply get to know the other person. And truthfully, I didn't care what side of the political aisle they're on. I kind of just wanted to see how this walk in the park went.
Okay. So listen, I want to get to my trivia with you. So for those of you listening and not watching it, Shaun is gorgeous. So all you single ladies out there, you have to follow him on Instagram at Sean Craisman. But I want to go through something with you. So how well do you know women, Shaun? So I'm going to give you some questions, and you can either choose a multiple choice or you can choose to answer on your own. What do you want?
Give me multiple choice.
Okay, and you have to do it quickly.
Okay.
According to you, when does a woman really feel like a woman? When she gets married, when she hits puberty, when she looks in the mirror, when she gives birth, when she falls deeply in love?
You're going to get me canceled. I'm going to go with deeply in love. I'm a hopeless romantic.
Beautiful. You passed it. Ding, ding, ding. Question 2. Okay, there you go. According to you, a woman feels happiest when... Oh, no, you know what? I'm going to skip that one. That's not going to be a good one. In a desperate situation where only one of these can be carried in her handbag, she will choose the following: cash, comb, lipstick or makeup, small mirror, or perfume deodorant.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to go with mirror.
No.
Oh, what is it? What was the answer?
Cash.
Cash. Well,
That's right.
Take it.
Okay.
Cash. Wait, let me take notes on this.
Okay, look. According to you, what's the first thing women look for in a man? Stability, sense of humor, how caring they are, skilled in bed, or looks?
Stability.
There you go again. It seems like you're on your stuff. Girls, what dating apps are you on? Or not? No dating apps. This is just straight to Sean Craisman on Instagram.
Yeah. Fine. I'm super easy. Just DM me. That's it.
Okay, hold on. This is the last one. This is the best one. In bed, the most important thing a woman wants is long foreplay, good technique, closeness from her partner, a big hard ding dong, lots of kissing and caressing.
Oh, that's tough. That's tough. And highly not appropriate for my job. But I'm gonna go with the last one.
Lots of. You got it right again. Okay, definitely passed the test. You are on the market for no reason. This has to end.
With your help, yeah.
There you go. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Shaun. It was so much fun having you.
Yeah, this is so much fun. It always is. Call me anytime. Let's go get drinks soon. Now we can actually go indoors normally here.
We can. Okay, thank you so much. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. I'm your host, Xen Sams. We'll be right back after this.
If you've missed out dining in New York City for the past year, it's time to visit the legendary Vice Cucina. Located in the heart of Midtown, Vice specializes in blending delicious Northern Italian and American cuisine with dishes such as the incredible taglione lobster, ravioli masala, ossobuco, and pappardelle al telefono, along with many other mouthwatering offerings. You deserve a great night out. Call Vice Cucina, 212-757-2600 or online at vicecucina.com.
The options and recommendations expressed by Kyle Wool are his and his alone and may not represent Revere Securities as a whole.
Welcome back, beautiful people. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. I'm your host, Xen Sams. Now, up next, we have Kyle Wool, president of Revere Wealth Management. Now, Kyle's group basically manages and preserves wealth for wealthy families, but he's also extremely knowledgeable with investment banking and managing portfolios. So even if you don't have enough to invest with him, you definitely want to listen to some of his advice and commentary. Another reason Kyle is so great is because he's active with so many charities involving, are you ready? Children. And of course, as a mom, that's my soft spot. He sits on so many boards, which makes him a magnet to investors. I'll let him get into all of those details with you. But wait, he's also an entrepreneur with a sweet spot for all things Greek. He's a partner at Isovlaki and a partner at Merakia, an award-winning Greek steakhouse in the Flatiron District here in NYC. I'm excited to announce that he's also going to be appearing regularly on the Moment of Xen, delivering a weekly business report to our listeners and viewers. Wow, that was a long intro. Here to break it all down for us on the business side, we have Kyle Wool. Welcome to the show, Kyle.
Thank you very much, Xen. It's an honor to be on your show.
All right, Kyle, we're going to dive right into this. All right, we've seen the latest business headlines and the growing concern about Biden's handling of the economy. Now, the GDP growth rate shows Biden's spending plans will basically overstimulate the economy. And the Commerce Department released their estimate for economic growth in the first quarter of this year. The GDP increased by an annual rate of 6.4%. Okay, that means since May 1st of last year, the economy has rapidly recovered. Now, here's my question to you, Kyle. Right, with even higher growth numbers in the coming months and with inflation increasing, it's evident that no more stimulus is really needed. Is this in fact counterproductive, if I'm understanding this properly?
I believe it's very counterproductive, and it's almost like the administration's talking out of both sides of their head at the moment. On one side, you have Janet Yellen Friday trying to calm the markets down, saying, oh, everything's okay. These are backward-looking numbers. Leisure and hospitality has not even begun to go back to work yet, and unemployment may not really be as bad as we're looking at. But then, on the other side, you have the administration saying we need another $1.9 trillion in infrastructure after the $1.9 trillion we already put in the quote-unquote COVID relief bill. So I think as we continue to print, forget about 6% GDP, you could see an 8 to 10% GDP number. And what's the problem with that? Sure, there will be an economic boom, but it will be followed by massive inflation and maybe even worse, stagnation.
This deficit spending could basically hand Congress to the Republicans. And like after what you just said, this 1.9 trillion American recovery, the act soared at 75% public approval. I guess people fell into a pipe dream and that's full of goodies because it's basically for state budgets, union pensions, universities, but yet little to do with the pandemic. So the Recovery Act for his working families is what he's really pushing. That's his Build Back Better, right? The BBB. It's his Economic Recovery Act for families. But is all this deficit spending a good idea?
I think it's far from a good idea. I think at the end of the day, if you create inflation, like we had back in 1981 when we had Chairman Volcker, and the only way they could break inflation was to raise interest rates. And we had 13% inflation. And if you and I probably barely remember, but our parents' generation remember getting 18% mortgages back then. Now, how does that affect the regular American voter, the regular blue-collar American worker? What's going to happen? Their home loans are going to go higher. Their auto loans are going to go higher. Their student loans will go higher. And their credit card bills, which are monthly for most people that live month to month, will go much higher. And I think that will be devastating.
Wow, well, there has to be a light at the end of the tunnel here. I mean, look, it sounds all worse than it could possibly be, but when you look at it from a business perspective, in a recent report I just read over the weekend that the Fed is just continuing to purchase between 80 billion and 120 billion worth of government bonds monthly. So they're just printing more and more money, and they're saying that this is going to continue. Now, if we couple this with Biden's deficit spending, which will be mostly financed by selling bonds basically to the public, which then reduces capital available to businesses, we are headed down a deep dark hole. What do you think they should be doing instead? Because this is not the approach that you would take. I think if the Trump administration, this is not the approach they would have taken. Where do you see this going?
Well, I think if you go back to what the Trump administration did during the pandemic, right? The policies before the pandemic, before the COVID-19 started over 13, 14 months ago, were great. The economy was ready to take off. We had deregulation. Job growth was through the roof on all different aspects. Women, men, minorities across the board. But once the pandemic happened, the Trump administration stepped in and added money into the American consumer's pocket. I understand that. I understand Biden just put another $1.9 trillion out there for another COVID stimulus. Did we need that or don't we need that? I don't even think we needed all that. So if we look at that, what do I think the answer is? I think let the economy open. I think there's enough money out there. I think a lot of people got a tremendous amount of money, whether they needed it or were not affected by the pandemic. They have that money. They're going to spend that money. Biden's going to spend that money. I think maybe we should hold back a little bit and let the economy open up so we don't overheat this economy, which will, again, lead into inflation. Now, what are the 4 biggest causes of inflation? Rising energy prices. We see it every day. I'm sure you've been filling up at the pump. Energy prices are going up. Now, is that because of the reopening? Yes, but it's also because of the war on fossil fuels that we have right now. I think we're adding too much money. And going back to what you were talking about a second ago, Xen, we spend $3 trillion more than we take in every year. And then if you look at how we finance that, we finance it with $30 trillion of bond purchases. Only 24 trillion are from the public. The other 6 trillion are from the Fed buying its own bonds. Where does that money come from? They print that money. These are all recipes for inflation, but I don't think it has to happen if we can just pull back a little bit on this outrageous government spending.
It sounds as if they don't have a really good grip on reality when it comes to getting the economy back up and running. They're incentivizing a lot of people to just basically stay home and not work. They're paving the way for a very sheepish kind of recovery, in the sense that they're appealing to a demographic that I feel could be a little bit lazier than what we would like to see in an economy where everybody's supposed to be incentivized to get back to work now that the vaccine has rolled out, now that the unions should really kind of be putting their hands down and saying, okay, let's get the kids back to school. But here in the tri-state area, with really strong teachers unions and poor leadership, it's a slow start. It's not like what we're seeing in Miami. It's not like what we're seeing in Texas. Those are very differently run states, if you will. In a quick, we have about 4 minutes left here, and I want to let the audience kind of, I want to let them in into what your specialty is. What is the best advice that you could give somebody who has a little bit of money to invest, not a lot, and they want to start to really get their feet wet with investments across the board? What can you give? What advice can you give over there?
Well, I think a very important thing for any investor, whether they have $10,000 or they have 10 million plus in the market, is to always invest prudently, never over leverage, always put money away on a monthly basis, and try to structure your investments in a very tax efficient manner. So, for example, one of the big conversations right now is, are they going to raise the capital gains tax? Now, that is big when you look at your actual net returns. It's not what you make, it's what you actually keep. So these are the things we really have to look at. Not only investing, not leveraging yourself, but doing it in a very tax efficient manner to retain as much as possible. Because if, as you know, Xen, it's not what you make, it's what you keep.
It's definitely what you keep. And Biden wants to raise the capital gains tax, and wants to raise the corporate tax rate and raise the highest personal income tax rate. And those 3 actions alone are going to dramatically reduce capital formation and contribute to a capital shortage. Can you explain the logic behind this? What should they be doing instead?
In a different world, I could explain the logic, but there is no logic behind it, Xen. So you have to understand, when you raise the corporate rate and you raise the capital gains tax on corporations, you are basically telling that corporation not to spend more money on machinery, not to hire more people. And who does that affect the most? It affects the blue collar person. It affects the middle class voter. It affects the person that maybe they will hire one less person. Maybe they'll lay off one less person. Maybe they're not going to start another project. So that's the real definition, in my opinion, of raising taxes, is corporations will not spend more going forward, and it'll affect the average voter and the average middle class earner.
Wow, you have such a good grip on things that, number one, let's tell our listeners, Revere Securities, you guys are based here in New York City. Tell us a little bit about Revere Securities and how we can go to the website and follow you and learn more about what you guys do.
Absolutely. Revere Securities, we're at 650 Fifth Avenue. That's our global headquarters. We also have offices in Boston, Ohio, Boca Raton, and a new office in West Palm Beach. Basically, you can go to our website, www.reveresecurities.com. You can see all about our different aspects. You can see our history. We've been around since 1982. You can see that we have a robust wealth management platform. We also have a robust investment banking platform. We actually led 2 initial public offerings in the last 30 days. And I think you'll see our name on a lot more tombstones and IPOs and other transactions coming forward. So we hope that you guys follow us and participate, and we look forward to anyone wants to reach out to us to working together.
Amazing. Well, you're going to be a regular of the show delivering the business report, so we're going to be hearing from you often. And I thank you so much for your time and for your incredible insight and knowledge when it comes to the market and business. It's always a pleasure talking with you, Kyle. So I thank you for your time.
And I thank you, Xen, for giving us the opportunity to be on this great show.
Absolutely. You guys are listening to A Moment of Xen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. I'm your host, Xen Sams. We'll be right back after this.
One of the world's most recognized fashion designers is Helen Yarmack. She turned a small clothing line to an international fashion brand and is one of the few independent luxury fashion houses in the industry. Her designs for men and women are timeless and they outlast changing trends, yet they stay adaptable to your individual style. Helen's goal for her clients is to express their individual uniqueness and beauty. To learn more about her offerings, visit HelenYarmack.com or to schedule an appointment, call 212-245-0777.
Welcome back, beautiful people. You're listening to A Moment of Xen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. I'm your host, Xen Sams. And coming up next on the Scandal segment, we're going to be talking about Ghislaine Maxwell with Fox Nation's very own Nancy Grace. Now, Nancy hosts a new series for Fox Nation called America's Most Wanted Overtime. And Overtime takes a deeper dive into the cases they highlight on the show. They bring in chief investigators, law enforcement experts, and even victims' family members. And that's what I love hearing from the family members. You can't get more real and upfront than that. Nancy's such an expert. She dives into the most shocking crimes, but she really pushes the needle by asking some really tough questions. I love listening to her because she shares her opinions, but more importantly, she leans on her experience as a prosecutor and questions everything surrounding the case. She has me at the edge of my seat when I'm watching her. She covers it all, from abuse to murder to legal misconduct. But one thing is for certain, she is determined to get the truth and find justice. Welcome to the show, Nancy. What an honor to have you on.
Well, the honor is all mine, and thank you for inviting me, Xen. This case regarding Ghislaine Maxwell is very, very complex. I've done a lot of research and actually spoken to people that knew Ghislaine Maxwell growing up in Great Britain. Now, as everyone probably knows, you'd have to be living in a cave. If you didn't know, Ghislaine Maxwell, former British socialite, moves to America. She is now charged with 8 felony counts. Wait for it. For basically being a Madam Pimp for her lover, millionaire Jeffrey Epstein. This scandal goes all the way from Florida's Palm Beach to a multi-million-dollar townhome in Manhattan to Orgy Island, an island where Epstein had a mansion. And it involves underage little girls being groomed, recruited, and basically delivered like a pizza to Jeffrey Epstein to molest.
That all sounds absolutely disgusting from a mom's perspective, but from the world's perspective, I mean, that is...
These little girls were as young as 13 years old. And listen to this, Xen. I was telling you, I talked in depth with people that knew her growing up. Her dad was also a multimillionaire, and he ran a media empire. And he had a lot of children. Ghislaine Maxwell was his favorite. He had a yacht he named the Lady Ghislaine and had a beautiful portrait of Ghislaine Maxwell up in the yacht, his daughter. So his empire started imploding. And it fell apart. He lost all the money. And then he went missing off his yacht. Basically committed suicide, according to reports. So that is how it ended with her father. And she was under his tutelage in business. Then she comes to America and hooks up with another bad player, Jeffrey Epstein, who rubbed shoulders with Trump, with Clinton, with all kind of rich and famous people. He had all these connections in society all over the world. Prince Andrew, I mean, really, how much higher up can you go than that? But the whole time, Epstein was molesting little girls. And there are accounts from alleged victims. I hope you're sitting down, Xen. If you may need to lay down for this.
Oh,
where
boy.
she would actually approach the girls on the school ground as they left school. In New York, as you know, you can drive by and look at basketball courts and playgrounds of elementary and middle school and high schools. She actually met some girls off the playground, Xen. I spoke to one young girl who had a job. She had a hard time getting it because she was underage, but she got a job at a gym taking care of children. You know, like when moms would come in and there was a little daycare in there, and she'd watch the children while the moms worked out. So she could do that. She was maybe 15, and that's as much as she could work certain hours. So she goes in and starts working out on the equipment, and she sees a woman walk by, professionally dressed. The woman sees her, comes in, speaks to the manager, and comes over and tries to recruit her. It's Ghislaine Maxwell.
Oh, my goodness. That is shocking and unbelievable. Now, she's in jail currently, and she's awaiting trial. Is that right?
That's right. At first, she was charged with 6 counts of procuring young girls for Epstein to molest. What she would do is say, hey, you want to make some money? We're training masseuses to provide massages for Jeffrey Epstein. So they'd take the little girls to the mansion. You know, with most of these girls were underprivileged. Okay, they came from shattered homes, like single moms that were out working, latchkey kids, like I was a latchkey kid. And they would go to the mansion where they were going to train the girls to do massage. She'd go in the room. Epstein would be laying there naked.
Oh.
A grown man, excuse me, my dog is in here, fat boy walking around snorting. Stop it. And, I mean, then Ghislaine Maxwell, according to these girls, this millionaire British socialite would then come in the room and she'd strip down, kind of like normalizing the situation. And then Epstein would molest the girls. It's gross. She's charged with 6 counts of taking girls, basically trafficking them for Epstein's child molestation. She just caught 2 more charges because another girl, then 14, says that she also was a victim of Ghislaine Maxwell's and Epstein. So this is supposed to go to trial in July, but now that they've added those 2 additional counts, Xen, I think the case will be, as we call, continued or further noticed for the defense to get ready on these 2 new counts with a whole new victim.
Now, Nancy, do you believe that Ghislaine holds enough information to put many influential men away?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I think that, here's my experience trying a lot of cases. I guess I investigated, 8 or 9,000 cases over the 10 years that I was an assistant district attorney in inner city Atlanta, because we get about 100 new cases a week in each courtroom, and they have to be investigated, pled out, or tried. You don't get a deal until, you remember that wartime slogan, don't fire till you see the whites of their eyes? I think that was at Concord in Lexington, but it holds true in trial work. Nobody's going to enter a deal until you're about to strike a jury. When the defendant realizes it's crunch time, this is really happening to me, then they'll start talking. I imagine the feds want her to rat out high-powered men that molested girls. You know, there's been a whole controversy about Prince Andrew being at a party with Virginia Jeffries. And there's the photo that emerged of him with his arm around her and Ghislaine Maxwell smiling at the background. That was at Jeffrey Epstein party.
Right.
Information similar to that about other people. High-powered, wealthy, politician or no. I imagine that's what the feds want to hear. But I'm not going to be happy at all if Ghislaine Maxwell walks free just because she rats out somebody else.
Yeah, she deserves to rot exactly where and stay where she's at.
You're not kidding. I got to tell you this, Xen. I'm not heartless. I just saw a recent photo of her, and much was made. Oh, they're waking her up every 15 minutes in her jail cell. Yeah, because Epstein ended up dead because they weren't checking on him.
Right.
They said,
I have a question to ask you. I have a question to ask you about that. So back in 2019 of August, Epstein was found dead in his federal jail cell at Manhattan Metropolitan Correctional Center, right? But the evidence I was reading released, some of it points to more to murder than suicide in one person's view. Was this a murder cover-up?
I think it's possible he was murdered, and I'll tell you why. One thing. Well, two things, really. He had a lot of pill bottles in his room, and they were sitting up straight along his top bunk, as I recall, and they were all perfectly still there, just like that. If he used his bunk to put pressure on homemade noose, I can't imagine how none of that would have been disturbed. But more important, when you hang yourself, the mark on your neck will look like a U, okay, from the upward motion. His was straight across, which suggests somebody coming up and strangling you from behind. That fact in the medical examiner's report, and remember, Michael Baden looked at this. He is no idiot, let me tell you that. And he found a lot of questions in the suicide theory. But that's why they're so concerned about Ghislaine Maxwell. You know what? That's what you get when you hang around somebody, a perv like Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah, you sleep
Nothing
with dogs.
good is going to happen. But
No.
the other day, she came into court, and she has streaks of gray in her hair because she's not able to go to her $500 an hour salon. Everybody freaked out. Ghislaine has gray streaks. Who cares? Now, one thing I am worried about is I saw another photo of her with, it looked like a bruise right here, the beginning of a black eye. I am worried about how did that happen. But let me assure you of this, Xen. If there had been a beating by, let's just say, a warden, the first thing you would have heard from the defense is there's been a beating. We've got to get her out on bond. Nobody said a word about that. So I do not believe anything nefarious caused the bruise to her eye, or believe me, we would have heard about it.
You know, this case is so deep and so dark, and there's so much involved. It's like Pandora's box. You know, the more time goes by, the more things we discover, and it's just a web of lies and manipulation. And the fact that it's involving so many powerful men and women is very alarming. So this is kind of like they want to keep a lid on it, if I'm understanding correctly.
Well, another thing that has me really upset, Xen, is that apparently, okay, so now it's 2021, 2016, and this is off the top of my head as to the dates. One of the victim's lawyers goes to the feds in the Southern District of New York and says, this is still happening. My client was abused and he's still doing it.
What?
And they did nothing. Epstein was not arrested on federal charges again until 2019. They gave him basically a 3-year pass for him to continue molesting girls, and he did. OPS, the dog, is now crunching something. That's not me chewing a bone, okay? It's him. Okay.
You're so funny.
He's doing.
Well, we definitely have to make light of this heavy, disgusting situation with children and babies involved. And as a mom, that's the stories that don't, you know, I have zero tolerance for people who prey on others that are weaker than them, you know, children, animals, seniors, all of the above.
And especially these girls, Xen, because these girls were doing anything they could to better their life. You know, how they end up in Jeffrey Epstein's mansion, nobody knows, but I do know the mothers were working. So they're working, getting home late. They have no idea what's happening. I just hate it all around. It's always the most vulnerable people in our society that get taken advantage of sexually and in every other way. And having dealt with many, many adult victims of child molestation, you never get over it. You go on to live your life, but it changes the fiber of your being. You never really get over that feeling of helplessness, that nobody was there to help you or save you.
Well, thank you for being such a strong advocate for victims and really trying to uncover the truth and getting to the bottom of it all. That's why your show is so meaningful. That's why people listen to you, because you dig and you stop at nothing until not only it makes sense to you, but until everything lines up. So thank you so much, Nancy. You are an inspiration. I'm a huge fan.
Thank you for inviting me. It's a real pleasure. Thank you very much for highlighting this. And we wait for the case to go to trial. I'd love to visit with you again as it progresses. Thank you.
Oh, it would be my honor. You're listening to A Moment of Xen on 710 WOR. I'm your host, Xen Sams. Please do check out Nancy on her new series for Fox Nation called America's Most Wanted Overtime. We'll be right back after this.
If you've missed out dining in New York City for the past year, it's time to visit the legendary Vice Cucina. Located in the heart of Midtown, Vice specializes in blending delicious Northern Italian and American cuisine with dishes such as the incredible taglione lobster, ravioli masala, ossobuco, and pappardelle al telefono, along with many other mouthwatering offerings. You deserve a great night out. Call Vice Cucina 212-757-2600 or online at vicecucina.com.
Welcome back, beautiful people. You're listening to A Moment of Xen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. I'm your host, Xen Sams. Welcoming to the show now, we have Peter Guimaras, and Peter is a home builder, an entrepreneur, co-founder of the very famous Tipsy Girl Wines, a New Yorker, and a managing partner at Vice Cucina Restaurant Group. He's also a single dad to the beautiful teenage Michaela and has entered the race as an independent for NYC's mayoral candidacy. He's an all-around great guy, and he's our surprise guest. We're going to take 5 quick minutes to chat and welcome Peter to the show. And Peter, let's get this straight. You're running for mayor, right?
I am. I'm running as an independent. I'm dying to get in there and fix this city.
Okay, listen, I'm going to ask you this really quickly because this is what's really irking me. I would like to know what happened to $1 billion that went to funding this ridiculously expensive program called Thrive NYC, which was supposed to be this huge mental health initiative conveniently headed by First Lady Shirley McRae, which is de Blasio's wife. And this mental health initiative went rogue, in my opinion, and simply was a way to just funnel money into some sort of scheme since its inception of 2015. What do you plan on doing about this? And do you think that this was a big scam?
Of course, it was a big scam. $1 billion went into the fund. $850 million is missing. If I become elected and I'm lucky enough to sit and become mayor of this great city, the first thing I'm going to do is hire a forensic accountant to find out where this money went. There's no statistics. There's no analytics. There is nothing on whether this program even works. And now he just slapped another $200 million into this account and extended it indefinitely. We need to stop the madness in this city.
And the city comptroller, Scott Stringer, not that I'm a huge fan of his, previously said that he was including Thrive on the watch list of city agencies with suspicious finances. So if he's even putting this out there, how come this organization hasn't ceased to even exist? I mean, this is corruption within at its best.
Well, that's what happens when you have a majority of Democrats. A majority of Democrats in mayor, a Democrat in the governor, you got Democrats in the city council. It's filled with so much corruption because these people protect each other. Scott Stringer, the checks are written from his office. If he doesn't know where the money went, oh, who does? And now he has the gall to run for New York City mayor. He couldn't even control the spending when he was the guy cutting the checks. It's going to be even worse if he gets elected into office.
While many politicians voted to defund the police, you and I know that safe streets, safe playgrounds, safe commutes, and safe cities is what makes the difference in our tourism, because people are otherwise very skeptical of coming to the city with crime on the rise. And real estate market and all around, everything is governed by public safety. And right now, my aim is to refund the police. What would you say to the average New Yorker? Because we have a lot of defund the police mentality going on here.
That's exactly. People don't understand what they're talking about, right? You cannot take money away from a program and expect it to work properly. Defunding the police is the most ridiculous term I've ever seen in my life. And politicians use it just to appease the people who don't know anything about how the police system works. We have crime all over the city. Midtown is up 550%. We just had a family shot in Times Square. Tourists. If I was mayor right now, I would load the city with cops. I would bring in the National Guard to show a force to make sure that people know that they're safe. The National Guard is walking the streets and keeping an eye on people, at least for a couple of months, to get the message out to these hooligans that are creating all this havoc in the city. They need to know that it's going to stop.
And it all has to do, I absolutely agree, and it all has to do with a lot of the homeless being released into our streets. Of course, another, excuse my French, stupidity that de Blasio did is to house these homeless people in the Upper West Side in these posh hotels, which is insane. They're loitering and urinating all over our streets, shooting up needles. It's what has happened to the city is absolutely atrocious and disgusting. I'm appalled. How do you plan on cleaning up this homeless thing in less than 1 minute?
All right, so listen, the homeless thing has been a problem in New York City and bigger cities before you and I were even alive, right? The only problem, it's a bigger issue now, is because there's no laws in effect. The homeless shelters are not being equipped properly. We need to revamp the system. We need to have psychiatrists. We need to have medical doctors on staff that can medicate these people, that can diagnose what illnesses they have. Majority of them are schizophrenic, so they don't know any better. So it's shame on us that we don't have the systems to take care of them. But then you have to be strict. You have to set down your foot and you have to say, we have the system to fix your mental illness. So you either go into our system, but you're not going to live on the streets. You'll be arrested, you'll be put in confinement, or we're going to take care of you in our mental institutions. But you cannot live on the streets. It's against the law. We need to enforce the law.
That sounds good to me. Address the mental health disorder, which is probably the underlying issue for all of these issues. The current catastrophes that are going on in the city is the ongoing mental health disorder that nobody is addressing. And perhaps when they tried to address it with the Thrive NYC, that's where that $1 billion went down this deep dark hole. So now it literally needs to be addressed the right way. So Peter, thank you for coming on the show. It's always a pleasure having you on the Moment of Xen. Those of you who have not heard of Peter Guimaras, please do check him out. That's Peter G for NYC.com, and make sure that you do check out his restaurants. Biche Cucina in Midtown Manhattan is always one of my favorites, not because it's by Peter, but because it's truly one of the best meals all around, and the service is great. And Peter was one of the very few businesses that weathered COVID-19 flawlessly with following all the rules and regulations. So thank you, Peter, for coming on the show.
Thank you, my dear. Let's get this city back on track. Ciao, everybody.
Thank you for listening to A Moment of Xen. I'm your host, Xen Sams, right here on 710 WR, the voice of New York.
One of the world's most recognized fashion designers is Helen Yarmack. She turned a small clothing line to an international fashion brand and is one of the few independent luxury fashion houses in the industry. Her designs for men and women are timeless and they outlast changing trends, yet they stay adaptable to your individual style. Helen's goal for her clients is to express their individual uniqueness and beauty. To learn more about her offerings, visit HelenYarmack.com or to schedule an appointment, call 212-245-0777.
Well, that's a wrap, my friends. Thank you for being loyal listeners. Many of you have already texted me for collaborations, and I love it. Keep those texts coming. Text feature me or collaboration to 917-575-2321. Again, that number is 917-575-2321. Remember to join me right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, every Saturday night from 7 to 8 p.m. or go to 710WOR.iheart.com/A Moment of Xen to watch fully uploaded episodes as of Monday morning. Remember to tune back in next Saturday at 7 p.m. I have an amazing and exciting lineup of guests, as I always do. Thank you for listening to A Moment of Xen. It has been an absolute pleasure being your host. Thanks again to all of our sponsors, Romulus Entertainment, Biche Cucina, Helen Yarmack International, and Revere Securities. Till next week, and remember, happiness is the only thing that multiplies when you share it.